Welcome to WION World is One, broadcasting live from London this hour. You're with me, Katie Pilbeam. Let's get to the headlines. Evacuees are under Russian fire in flooded areas of Kherson, claims Ukrainian president, as thousands flee the flooded regions amid fears of floating landmines. Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden sign Atlantic Declaration as hopes of a trade deal ends. The agreement moves UK firmly onto US economic orbit, but falls short of full trade deal that Tories promised in 2019. Pakistan to present its annual budget in the parliament today, needing to satisfy the IMF to have any chance of securing the release of more bailout money, with the crisis-riven country due to hold elections by November. Two apologetic lawyers respond to an angry judge in Manhattan federal court, blame ChatGPT for tricking them into fictitious legal research in a court filing. India's most valued startup by Jews may go for a third round of layoffs. This after the company began cost-cutting last year and is embroiled in a number of debt repayment disputes. First, to our top story this Friday. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and US President Joe Biden have adopted the Atlantic Declaration to boost economic ties. The deal is being touted as a move to level up the two countries' 2 centuries-old trade and economic relations. Well, the declaration aims to boost industry ties on defence and renewable energy, as both the countries face growing competition.
And with their families. Countries like China and Russia are willing to manipulate and exploit our openness, steal our intellectual property, use technology for authoritarian ends, or withdraw crucial resources like energy. They will not succeed. Today we have agreed the Atlantic Declaration, a new economic partnership for a new age, of a kind that has never been agreed before.
Under the plan, the UK and US will work to strengthen their supply chains and invest in each other's industries. Sunak seeks support for tens of thousands of small businesses in the UK. The plan contains an in-principle agreement for a deal on minerals that are used to make a range of products, from solar panels to electric vehicles. It will also give UK exporters access to the huge $370 billion green subsidies program in the US. Well, Biden is also expected to ask the US Congress to designate UK as a domestic source for defence procurement and a source to help speed up development of weapons such as the hypersonic missiles. He also said UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace is very qualified to lead NATO. The first Atlantic Charter, which was a joint declaration, was signed during World War II between the leaders of that time, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and US President Franklin Roosevelt. But the current scenario is quite different for the UK. Many experts argue that Sunak is still struggling to prove the relevance of UK post-Brexit. Well, let's talk about this now with Andrew Whitehead, who is an historian, author and former BBC senior journalist. Thank you for taking the time, joining us live from London today. So this isn't quite the big trade deal that some were hoping for, but it's something, right?
Well, it is something, and I think that's the important point. Rishi Sunak is not returning from his first visit to the White House as Prime Minister with nothing to show for it. But the big thing about the Atlantic Declaration is what it isn't. So this is not the wide-ranging trade deal between Britain and the United States, which the Brexiteers, those who supported Britain leaving the European Union, said would be easy to achieve and would be the cornerstone for Britain's continuing economic growth and diplomatic importance. That moves towards a trade deal are dead. It's just not going to happen. It's not the direction of travel. So this Atlantic Declaration, which is a rather grand-sounding title for a series of important but fairly restricted measures, it's useful. It does give Britain some access to America's green economy, to the defence industry there. It's a statement of intent about economic security, but it's nothing like as important as the Atlantic Charter of the 1940s, which led to the creation of NATO and to one of the most important geopolitical blocs of the last century.
As you say, there's a real historical view to look at this. It's not nearly as big as what we've had in the past, clearly. Do you think that this is anything to do with Joe Biden being a little bit lukewarm towards Britain?
Well, he has been a little bit lukewarm, particularly concerned about British policy in Ireland. Joe Biden's family is of Irish descent, and he's been worried about anything which destabilizes the peace deal in Northern Ireland. And I think America has decided that it's not going to hitch up with Britain rather than with the EU, and it's not going to reward Britain for Brexit. But I don't think there's any underlying hostility there. I mean, the chemistry between Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden was quite good. It wasn't excellent, but this was really their first meeting as heads of government in the Oval Office. So I don't think there's anything there which is going to be a real impediment to Britain developing links to Biden's America. But nevertheless, the special relationship is probably not quite as special as it was a decade ago.
No, I think you're quite right. Andrew, thank you so very much indeed for offering your expertise. We appreciate it. That's Andrew Whitehead there, historian, author and former BBC senior journalist, joining us here on WION Today, live from London. OK, we stay with UK news now because the head of police watchdog in England and Wales has demanded new powers as the police force in the UK struggles to restore public trust in the police. Well, in his report, Andy Cook says there is a limited chance to restore the public trust, while he warns of an irreparable damage if not acted quickly. According to Cook, the trust crisis is due to a series of scandals. Well, this includes the murder of Sarah Everard by Wayne Couzens, a serving Metropolitan Police officer, and the 48 rape convictions of another Met officer, David Carrick. Well, Cook said such horrific incidents could have been tackled if the police watchdog had the powers to implement its recommendations. The watchdog chief expressed his frustration with Metropolitan Police forces as UK's largest police force failed to act on warnings of sexual misconduct by police officers. Well, the watchdog urged the government to introduce a bill which will make it a legal requirement for police forces to follow directions from the watchdog. It also demanded a role in the recruitment process as well. Well, the opposition Labour Party says the report is truly damning, while accusing Conservative Tory government of faulting. Meanwhile, UK Home Secretary thanked the Chief Inspector of the Constabulary for his report, while adding that she equally shares the concern that UK police need strong leaders. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Alex Isat is joining us live from London now. So this has been an issue in regards to trust in the Metropolitan Police for a while. People are demanding better standards. Tell us more about this watchdog and if it could work and be the answer to the problems.
Well, yes, this has obviously all come out not too long ago because of those incidents that you've mentioned there with the Metropolitan Police. But let's not forget that Andy Cook also had his own scandal not too long ago, where he was backing one of his own colleagues when a few people came out and claimed that they had some issues with her. And in fact, she was not fired for misconduct, but in fact they were. So it should really start within from all of those that are in the high echelons of police, not just the Metropolitan Police. Of course, if the watchdog does have its way, there could well be more stringent controls over who gets let into the police and how long a police officer can be within that role after they've had a complaint. Should they be suspended, and what should exactly happen to them? Right now, it's a really long process and it's very quite drawn out. So someone could make a complaint about an officer and it could take months or potentially years before that goes all the way through, and then that officer may not well be sacked. He could just be they could just be suspended for a period of time, and all of that time where those complaints may be stacked up, as we had some similar situations with David Carrick there was a number of complaints, but unfortunately he was not suspended in that particular incident. And again with Wayne Couzens we saw similar attributes here. So this particular watchdog could come in and say, right, as soon as someone makes a first complaint, the person should be suspended, and then looks to investigate it. That does seem quite simple and straightforward, and it's something that was mentioned in fact early in the year with regards to when we had all of the Metropolitan Police coming face to face in a select committee. A lot of this information came out back then. We heard about misogynism, we heard about racism, we heard about bullying, and there has been a lot of calls for things to change within the police. But it is specifically down to how, when an officer comes in, even if they do manage to pass all of those stringent checks, how can we get them out if they aren't really up to standard, or if they're doing things that aren't really good for the community? And that's where the watchdog would come in. And I do think that most of the Conservatives and the Labours and all of those in the House of Commons are on the side of the police, trying to help them. But there are other issues as well that the police are facing on a day-to-day basis. They're getting called out to a whole host of other non-crimes, especially when it's coming to mental health issues. And a lot of people on the streets, they're happy to see police when they're out, and they do say that crime does go down when they see a bobby on the beat, but then they aren't as respectful to police, and police do have to deal with the law. It takes a certain person to be a police officer, but it does need some stringent and straightforward responsibilities as well from the watchdog to put in place if we're going to go forward and get the right people into the right roles.
Exactly. Right people into the right jobs, as you say, the right roles. Thank you so much, Alex Isaac there, covering that story for us this morning live here on WION. That's Alex Isaac, our London correspondent. Claims and counterclaims rage on as Russia and Ukraine continue shelling amid rescue operations in the flood-hit Kherson region. 600 square kilometres of Kherson is underwater. Another area of focus here is the Zaporizhzhia, the area of the critical nuclear power plant. Well, let's take a look. Now there are three areas of focus here. The first region is the Zhytomyr, where Ukraine had placed a landmine. Now the entire region is flooded due to the dam explosion. Second, the crucial region of Kherson, where Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of shelling each other amid evacuations. And third is the Zaporizhzhia, where Russia claimed it had pushed back a Ukrainian offensive. Well, the NGO Hazardous Area Life Support Organization is helping clear landmines and other explosive devices. The Red Cross says mines uprooted and dispersed by floodwaters could pose a grave danger to civilians for decades to come. Well, specialists from the organisation say they are unable to access minefields as roads leading to them are flooded. Let's have a listen in.
The Ingolets River formed the front line of the conflict for a number of months, which means that the banks of the river themselves were quite heavily mined. So Halo's been working to remove those mines. However, since the explosion at the dam, we've seen the water levels in the Ingolets River rising significantly. During the first day, approximately 55 centimetres, and then they've continued rising since then. For the past 2 days, we have not been able to access any of those minefields, and we believe that the majority of them are completely underwater.
Well, now we turn our attention to Kherson amid the efforts to evacuate citizens from the flood-hit areas. Russia and Ukrainian forces are continuing their shelling. Now, according to Ukrainian officials, Russian shelling killed one person and injured 18 other people. This includes one of the emergency service staff who was overseeing the evacuation. Meanwhile, officials from the Russian-controlled areas of Kherson have said that 2 evacuees were killed in Ukrainian shelling. While the devastating floods in the heart of the war-torn region of Kherson has resulted in the deaths of 5 people. As many as 41 people have been hospitalized in the region. Here's some of the footage of shelling taking place even as Ukrainian forces attempt to evacuate citizens from the area.
From all the river and the Russian oh, yes, here.
And from Kherson, we move to Zaporizhzhia, where the critical nuclear power plant is located. Although the reactors are shut down, the plant still needs water to prevent a nuclear disaster. The plant's chief operator has said that water levels at the reservoir had already gone below the critical point of 12.7 meters. Now, the IAEA says the nuclear plant continues to receive water from the reservoir after the dam was damaged. Russia said its forces had fought a 2-hour battle with Ukrainian troops on Thursday. Russian Defense Minister Shoigu said the Ukrainian offensive involved 1,500 soldiers and 150 armoured vehicles. Well, you can see the visuals showing 2 groups of tanks shelling each other just there. This is drone footage released by the Russian Defense Military.
At 0 to 100 hours, the enemy launched an offensive. The enemy was exposed early on by the military intelligence of the Air Reconnaissance Special Forces, who inflicted a smoldering defeat against them. Having suffered losses, the enemy abandoned any further offensive action and retreated with their remaining forces.
Well, here's what the commander of the Russian army in Zaporizhzhia said. The Eurozone economy fell into recession in the first 3 months of 2023. Well, revised data showed that growth contracted by 0.1% in the last 2 quarters. The growth rate for the 4th quarter of 2022 was cut to 0.1%, minus 0.1% from the previous reading of 0. Now, a country or an economic union is said to be in recession if the economy shrinks for 6 consecutive months. There were expectations of a recession in the Eurozone as the area wrestled with high energy and food prices as well as rising interest rates. But initial estimates had suggested the region had avoided a recession. Now there are a number of Eurozone countries in recession, the biggest being Germany, the largest economy, of course, in Europe. Well, GDP growth has also declined in Greece, Ireland, Lithuania, Malta, and the Netherlands. It was only a few years ago when 3D print technology was considered a novelty, but now it's revolutionizing the way we create everything from toys to tools and even art, actually, too. Girl with a Pearl Earring is a masterpiece in the Netherlands Hague Museum, and now she's bigger than ever. In the museum's hall, a gigantic 4-metre-high 3D print of the painting stands tall, allowing visitors to have an up-close and personal experience with this iconic woman of the art world. One can touch the surface, feel the texture, and observe every tiny detail magnified. Well, the exhibition titled Who's That Girl not only showcases the giant print, but also includes a digital presentation. This presentation offers a glimpse into what the painting looked like in 1665. It took 88 hours to scan every detail of the original painting, and the 3D printing process itself consumed more than 200 hours of work. Well, Xerox is the company behind this technological feat. The exhibition opened its doors on June the 8th and will run until January 7th, 2024. The goal is to make people understand the painting's service and ensure its long-term preservation.
Individuele pigmentdeeltjes en af en toe zelfs haartjes van vermeersklas.
One of Hollywood's most celebrated yet controversial actors, Johnny Depp, turns a year older today. The star, who recently opened the Cannes Film Festival with his upcoming film, WION The World, turns 60. Well, here are some of the lesser-known facts about the real-life Jack Sparrow.
A great actor, a talented musician, but also someone who has always had a tortured relationship with fame. Johnny Depp is scripting a Hollywood comeback with his role as Louis XV in John du Barry. While his fans may claim to know everything about him, here are some lesser-known things about the multi-talented star. Depp is considered Hollywood royalty by many, but it turns out that the 60-year-old actor is royalty in real life too. Reports suggest that he is related to Queen Elizabeth II. In 2011 it was found out that Depp is a possible distant relative of the late Queen, as both are 20th cousins. Coming to his movies, Johnny Depp made quite the splash when he played Willy Wonka in Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But did you know that the actor was allergic to chocolate as a child? Depp would break out into rashes if he consumed chocolates. He outgrew the allergy as he got older. Though he's considered to be one of the finest actors of his generation and has been nominated for Best Actor thrice, Depp has never won an Oscar. Believe it or not, Johnny Depp suffers from nearsightedness since birth and is nearly blind in his left eye. In 2013, the actor opened up about his condition and said that he has never been able to see well and that everything appears blurry to him. It hasn't slowed him down as an artist, though. Johnny Depp is making millions from his artwork. In 2022, he released 780 prints in an art gallery in London, which sold out almost immediately. Johnny Depp's popularity cannot be underestimated. Who can forget these scenes when his fans came out in swarms to support him during his defamation lawsuit against ex-wife Amber Heard? Here's wishing him a very happy birthday.
Yes, a very happy birthday to Johnny Depp from all of us here at WION. Thank you so much for watching. We have been broadcasting from London this hour, but stay with the channel. The international news is coming up shortly.